like to have you people tell us what you think is very important in terms of those who would oral interpret. We call these support specialists in oral interpreting, note-taking, the development of speech reading skills, and you people can offer some suggestions and ideas that will be very important for those who want to become oral interpreters. So we'd like to have all of you participate in giving us ideas and suggestions as to what you consider to be very important for those people who oral interpret for you in meetings, in church, in large group meetings, small group meetings, and even sometimes in the classroom. And I would like to have you talk about, of course, note-taking and some of the other aspects of the skill development program as we move along. But I will ask you specific questions about them. First, we ought to introduce you to the group. Chet, would you introduce yourself, give a little background of your experience, and also about your philosophy concerning note-taking and oral interpreting. Just a brief introduction.
My name is Chester Robert, and I'm a student at the University of Utah. And for the most part, all of my classes have been difficult in some ways, but I've made my way through those classes with a note taker. At times I wish I did have an interpreter, but I feel like I could depend more on the notes instead of interpreter. I would have something to study from for a final exam or a midterm rather than depend on the interpreter.
All right, you do feel that there are times and places that the oral interpreter would be very valuable for you?
In some cases, but not all. I depend a lot on my listening skills and lip reading, and I pertain directly to the speaker itself.
All right. A lot would depend on the instructor, on the speaker, on the individual talking to you as to probably how much help you need in terms of support. What I hear you saying is that you want to be as independent as possible and function that way with as minimal support help as possible.
Right.
Is this what I hear you saying?
Right.
And each individual would differ a little bit. That is, some people probably would need more help than you need.
I can understand some would need more, but I feel somewhat more self-dependent than most people that have hearing impairments.
When did you lose your hearing, Chad?
They think it was lost about 3 or 4 years old.
When you were 3 or 4 years old?
And then it was progressive from that point, and now I have a 110 dB hearing loss.
All right. Thank you. Colleen, would you like to give us a little background?
My name is Colleen Bitter. And I work at Undeterred. I guess I got to. And still, I feel about it.
Do you feel that you need oral interpreters very often?
No, I do nothing very often, but I because I really need something.
Excuse me. All right.
Again, I really need something to think that there's no for me at the gas. And like that, but I don't live for everywhere, but I can the meaning or God fixes it or.
So in a meeting or a conference or a large group where it's difficult to speech read, you might find it easier to have an oral interpreter with you under those occasions. Do you use your listening skills very much? Do you use your hearing aid very much, or do you communicate largely by speech reading?
By speech reading. But I'm not dripping by all of
All right. When did you lose your hearing? When did you lose your hearing?
Probably before
Before birth. All right, we'll come back and ask some more questions about speech reading and note taking. Do you think that note takers are important sometimes?
sometimes, but if there's a thing specific, only rather than follow all the things that what the teacher said, I do think that is necessary, but still for specific honest.
So you would like to have a note taker that takes down very good notes, specific ideas of the important concepts so that you can watch the instructor and watch the movement of the class and read the environment, okay? All right, we have two Colleens with us tonight. One is Colleen Bitter, who just spoke, and then Colleen
Fisher.
Fisher. Okay, Colleen?
I am a student at the University of Utah, and I'm going into special education in the area of deaf, and I've been using note takers most of my time here at the university. Sometimes I wish there was some oral interpreters.
Probably, what times would you like to have an oral interpreter? Can you give us an example, Colleen, when you needed an oral interpreter?
Places where there's a large gathering, public places.
Or in the maybe large group classes sometimes, I guess. Would you need it so much at the university or out in conferences or public gatherings?
Like large classroom, public gathering. It's hard sometimes to see the speaker. The speaker
Okay.
might be so far away that you can't see the lip. And I've been depending on note takers, and I like the note takers to be specific, like you said, have specific, like Roman numeral 1,
Okay.
followed by A, so on. That's
All
what I
right.
like, organized.
So you agree with what Chet has said and Colleen Bitter has said, that there are times when oral interpreters are important, there are times when note takers are better for you in terms of support help. Tom Osmond,
Yes, sir.
what are your feelings about oral interpreting? Well, first, give us a little background, Tom. What are you doing now?
What am I doing now?
Yes, where did you go to school?
Which school I go to?
Where did you go to school?
I went to the University of Utah. Sometimes I was a bit far, and I've got to slow down. Anyway, I don't know when. It was about 19.
It's all right.
Stop it.
We're having fun.
Yeah, you bet. I'm having fun. There's so much to talk about. I don't know exactly when the year I went to University of Utah.
Was that about 4 years ago?
Pardon?
4 or 5 years ago? Or
I
longer
believe
than that?
5 years ago.
All right.
Been a long time.
What are you doing now?
While I am the president of the Osmond Press in Ireland, known as the Stewardship for the Osmond Family Organization.
When did you lose your hearing?
Say it again, please.
When did you lose your hearing?
When I was born dead, my wife knows more than I do. So I told her I was born dead to them and myself, but I don't understand very much about it. We'll have to wait and see.
Right. And you have been using your hearing aids for quite a while, haven't you?
Oh, yes, you bet. When I was 5 years old, and someone at Utah School for the Deaf told my mother that it was the big waste of money to buy hearing aids.
I see.
My mother is the one she persuaded me to wear. The sound interrupted me so I can hear in the silent world. It helped me to develop my speech in everyday conversation.
All right. Now, Tom, you also feel that there is a place for oral interpreters and perhaps note-taking. When would you consider that oral interpreters ought to be used for you?
Oh, I never had the oral interpreter before.
Do you have some now?
Never. Oh, yes, of course, my wife. I've learned so much from her through the meetings as well as church services.
So she interprets.
Pardon?
She interprets for you at meetings.
She's the best.
I'm sure she is.
All right. I'm very proud of it.
All right, good. We'll come back to you,
Okay.
Tom. Warren, you have kind of caught the idea of what we're doing now in terms of just a little background. Give us a little background, just a brief background of your hearing loss, Warren. And
I was born deaf, and I attended public school all my life, but I had speech training and auditory training after school hours.
all right, Warren, in terms of oral interpreting, support specialists to help you with the communication process, do you think there's a place for oral interpreting and note-taking?
Definitely. I attended Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York, where they had the famous National Technical Institute for the Deaf.
Yes.
Interpreting and note-taking, big part of that program. When I was there, they did not have any oral interpreters, but they're in the process of setting up an oral interpreting program. I do not think I would have done as well as I did at RIT, and I graduated with honors. I don't think I would have done as well as I would have if I hadn't had the note-taking services. However, my note-taking services were not somebody who was hired to do that. I would approach the student in the class and get him or her to make carbon copies of the notes that they were taking for themselves. Now, as far as oral interpreting goes, of course I use it every day in my business. I have the girls who work for me interpret for me on the telephone at the time, but could be considered a valuable firm of interpreting. Are you concerned mostly about an academic situation?
We're going to cover several areas of oral interpreting. Basically this evening, or in this meeting, we'd like to talk specifically about the characteristics, the personal characteristics of those whom you think can oral interpret. Facial characteristics, professional characteristics, those kinds of simple little things that you consider very important in terms of being able to understand what the oral interpreter is saying.
Would you like me to forget something?
Go ahead and take off, and then we'll hear from the rest of you on the same question Warren is talking about.
I think the two most important characteristics that I would look for, and I have used many people in my organization for interpreting on the telephone. I think the two most important characteristics are three actually. Number one, the ability to keep up with what is being said. There are some people who just cannot keep up with the flow. For example, my mother is one of them. I tell somebody she must wait until the other person is finished talking before she can process it through her brain and tell me what's being said. That is not as suitable as some of the girls I've had in my office who can just spit it out just as soon as it's being said. The second characteristic is the good facial being able to convey, because I cannot hear the tone of voice of the person being used over the phone. I need something to give me an indication of whether somebody is saying something seriously or impressed or is mad or whatever, because that of course influences how I respond to that statement. So it's that keeping up the flow, the facial expression, and of course that also includes how mobile the person's lips are. Maybe some other people have some ideas to add to that.
Okay, fine. So by mobile lips, you mean someone who has lips that are easily read, clear, distinct expression, these kinds of things. All right, excellent.
I did not get your second or third part.
All right, let's ask Warren to repeat it. Colleen didn't get your second and third concepts.
But about the let's be easy to read. I've talked to many people on the street, for example, who got talk about stuff and I couldn't understand a single thing. And people who have good listening are very important, I think, if they're going to interpret things.
Okay.
Yeah, the opening of the mouth doesn't open very far. I guess that's what Dr. Northcott meant by mobile lips, is flexible, relaxed, easy to read lips. We will use the expression largely easy to read lips in terms of the discussion. Thanks very much, Warren. So Warren has brought out three important aspects: the keeping up with the flow of the conversation, the pacing of it, facial expressions, and what was the third again, Warren? The third point?
The lip mobility.
The lip mobility, the easy to read lips.
Okay.
Easy to read lips, the expressions, clear enunciation, clear and distinct pronunciation or enunciation of the words that are said. Does that pretty well cover it? All right. Colleen, what are your feelings? Do you agree with Warren that these three ideas or concepts are probably the most important? What would you add to that?
Yes, I do. I can't think of any more. No, I think those are the three main ideas. And the three main will have several branches leading to it.
Other ideas
Right.
associated with it, all right?
Right.
But you can accept, basically, those are pretty important in terms of the characteristics.
Right.
Colleen, do you have anything to add to this?
Mom,
What about the use of gestures and body language and dramatics? How much?
then no need to have a just exaggeration
Exaggerations, all right.
like that. Or sometimes they think of it, not don't need that.
Well, of course, in our workshop, in this program, we are talking about oral interpreting.
Right.
We're not talking about other modes of communication. The modes of communication that we are strictly dealing with will be auditory oral or visual oral. And we respect, of course, the options that people have. When we think of the oral interpreting process, it's through the processes that we're talking about now in speech reading, the use of the hearing aid where possible, these approaches. And that's another program. So we're strictly talking about the processes of speech reading, facial expressions, all of that which is a part of this. But do you agree that facial expressions, the keeping up with the speaker, and being able to speak clear and distinctly are important? Are there other things that you would be concerned about besides gestures?
But there's the other thing then no need to try to the read how to pick out easy read.
Oh,
Not about that.
now that's interesting. That gets into skills probably, but that's very important. This is kind of watering down the vocabulary,
Right.
rephrasing so that you don't get the exact concept of what the speaker is talking about. That's probably very important, and that would differ with different individuals. In other words, you want to be challenged also to the vocabulary that's used so that you're getting the exact message. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think it could definitely be left up to the individual because I was telling my interpreters, let me not understand, not you. If you don't understand, try to give me as precise a translation of that word as you can. I want to be the one who decides, and I would say, hey, I didn't understand that. To the person who's saying, rather than letting my interpreter make that decision.
Now isn't that important? Exactly what you pointed out, that the consumer, you people, will be the ones to decide what's needed, and then you can let the interpreter know if you want any other explanation. Very, very important, isn't it? Go ahead, just talk.
I think one of the most important thing in interpreting for me would be that the person has a working knowledge of the language that is being used in the classroom. For example, in mathematics, we have a language of math. In education, we have a language of education. I expect the person that is doing interpreting for me, if I requested, that they know how to pronounce those words properly, that they're familiar with them, and that if I don't understand the meaning of it, I would be able to stop the interpreter and ask for a quick rephrase.
All right. Tom, are there any other ideas in terms of facial expressions, gestures, body movement that are important to you in terms of what an oral interpreter should do or should not do? What annoys you the most?
Say it again.
Do you get bothered by what some people do when they interpret for you? Are you bothered by anything?
Or, let's see, I have something. Okay, let's see, I don't think so. I think what we've talked about it, I do agree. And one thing that bothers me about for an oral interpreter is repetitive time. It is recommended for a person to speak naturally, as they open his mouth, like a hippopotamus.
Can you open? Show me.
Show me for what?
What's opening the mouth?
I don't like that.
All right.
Just relax, be natural, so they can be read easily.
All right.
Well,
Very
I
interesting.
think that depends on the person. Some people are easy to understand when other people have to exaggerate to understand it. I think it depends on the nature of the interpreter.
All right. That's probably a key that's very important. A rule of thumb that it depends on the individual, and the individual hearing impaired person should make those wants and needs known. Probably extreme exaggeration, or making movement, how are you kind of thing. That kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Do you find people doing that?
Yeah, I understand that.
And that's hard to keep from laughing, isn't it, when that happens? Or some people talk very loud at you.
But it's not recommended for an oral interpreter to talk loud while the professor says something. No. The whole understand with him, not the recognize, but outside conversation. But don't speak too loud. That embarrasses me. That's the whole people.
You look around to see who's watching, don't you?
Now, what is wrong?
All right. Excuse me, Colleen.
I have a comment on the use of body language.
All right.
I would rather have it kept to a minimum. I don't want them to jump up and down. You know what I mean? I would have them to be like a speaker. Use it minimal gestures. I don't like to have them just swing their arms up and down.
You'd like to focus. You'd like to focus on the on
Have
what's
them
happening.
pose like speakers, formal speakers.
All right.
That's what I'd like.
I guess it would depend on the situation a lot, wouldn't it?
Yeah. One thing when you said that question that you were talking about auditory
Yes. Visual oral or auditory oral, those are subterms.
But I have never encouraged any of my interpreters to use their voice under any circumstances.
To use their voice.
Never, I don't like it.
All right.
I just want pure visual input, and I try to pick up as much as I can auditorily from what's going on. Other people might be different, of course, but that's right.
Now that's very, very important, isn't it? That's something that needs to be scored. Sometimes, if people are not experienced, they are encouraged to use their voices because it's more natural. But I think that's very important for the one who's developing the skill to turn the voice off so you can not have all of this extraneous noise and sound that you can focus in on. And it does encourage some speech reading skills and maybe even some listening skills, doesn't it? Very interesting.
Now, what do you mean by visual? What do you mean by that? Oh, without the voice by someone. I understand. Thank you very much. I got it.
All right. Now, let's go to the aspects of grooming and dress habits. In some of the guidelines that have been published, people get to the point where they talk about what shirt to wear, what kind of dress to wear. The women oral interpreters should wear a little lipstick. Maybe the men ought to wear lipstick too, I don't know. Talk to this a minute in terms of grooming habits and clothing that the oral interpreter would wear. How do you feel about this?
Personally, if I had a female interpreter, I would not want her to wear something that would be distracting to me, like a halter top or tight pants.
A low-necked gown or something?
Yeah, a low-hanging gown. If it was a male, I would prefer that he not have a large beard or a mustache hanging over his lips. Otherwise, I can't see what he's saying. If he was a male concerning clothing, I would prefer that he not have distracting clothing, shoddy-looking clothing, something that was unacceptable for that particular situation in interpreting.
All right, so maybe beads and over-exaggerated bracelets and all of these things. You prefer more or less the plain, well-groomed individual. Then, do you notice any difference in terms of perhaps women who have a little lipstick on or a lot of lipstick? Does that seem to make a difference? Have you noted that very much? Maybe you haven't.
It really doesn't. Well, it would outline their lips,
Uh-huh.
put it that way, but
And every bright red lipstick.
Bright red might distract you then.
yeah.
I prefer natural, more of a natural
Yeah.
lip gloss or something like that, just to set it up a little bit. But I had a couple of comments regarding what Trent was saying. If I wasn't very interested in what was being said, I might prefer more distracting what the female interpreter. But one thing that something was not listed on the paper that you gave us, and that hadn't been brought up, that I think is more important than the dress or that, is the background behind the interpreter. Because sometimes I have utterly freaked out, sitting in a 2-hour lecture, staring at somebody's time, that they got hair around their head. I've just been watching them for so long that my eyes are rebelling. I think that this is something you very infrequently can control. But a soft background like that gray blackboard or something like that would be much more suitable than looking up at a professor with these neon lights in the background. I'll come out with a headache after watching a professor for too long under those kinds of circumstances.
All right, very important, isn't it? The environment, and it's really up to the interpreter to help get this environment ready to oral interpret. That's one of the responsibilities of the interpreters, to help lay the groundwork and to set up the environment. This includes lights and the background. Most important, isn't it? Any other ideas on this particular subject?
What I said about the fear of this thing, given nothing to say for, but guess it is this thing.
I can understand him because he's sitting close to me, but if he was at a distance away from me,